I want to make sure they all latch up properly. If one does come undone, just raise your hand. One of our staff will be there for you. No raised hands though means we are all set. All right, everyone, so welcome aboard. Let's go over some safety procedures real quick. Please do remain seated whenever I'm in motion. Please do not lean on those doors. We want to make sure they remain latched the entire time. I cannot stop at any time for dropped items. So if you do drop something, let me know at the end of the tour. I'll pass that information along and we'll try and get it back for you. If I do come to a complete stop, you're welcome to stand up to get a better angle at those pictures. And if there are any medical emergencies out there, for those of you in my 2 back cars, you can pull the emergency straps above you. For those of you in my first car, though, it'll be easier to just go ahead and knock on my window here, wave at me, get my attention that way, and in either case, I'll pull the vehicle over. With that being said, though, let's see some animals. Alright, perfect. I did want to double check if we did actually just have a wedding here, so I wanted to ensure that no one was still, no ceremonies were still happening, but it looks like we are all clear. So we're going to go ahead and kind of get back to talking here. So I'm going to talk to you all today about survival and what it all is about and how the animals are best suited for surviving out here due to things like adaptation and behavior. So take a look on the driver's side here. You're going to see the cutest giraffe you've ever seen in your life probably, because that is a 1-month-old baby girl out there. She's sitting down right now, kind of basically feeding at that feeder right now with mom watching over her, wondering what she's doing. So that is a little girl out there, right? So I'm not even joking you when she is a month-old only. So we're going to play a little game here, okay? I want you all to participate, or as many of you as possible. I want you to just look at her. I know she's only sitting down. I want you to think about how tall she is. We're going to come back this way, and I want you to hold that number, okay, for me? Just hold that. So think how tall she is at a month old. She is a giraffe. Just keep that in mind. Now, this is a naughty giraffe over here who wants to be able to eat some grass without bending its neck a little too much. Hello there. So now one thing I want you all to notice here is that all these animals are social, right? These animals are all hanging out in big to small-sized groups, just like us humans do. And animals will be social for a few different reasons. They'll be social for things like comfort, for things like help with raising young, but most of the time it's going to be to help with either defending themselves from predators or spotting them. So you're going to see an animal like here, like the rhinos. These are animals that are very massive here on the driver's side. They're going to go ahead and be social ever just to defend their young. They're more vulnerable members of their species. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Contrast the size of a rhino, by the way, that you're seeing right now in this great viewing angle with one of the greater flamingos on the passenger side here. Look at how frail and fragile the birds look compared to the rhino. There are some baby flamingos out there too, so if you saw some gray or black fluff balls, those are flamingo chicks. Now, flamingos are going to be small, fragile birds again, right? So their reason for being social is to spot predators. So they're going to hang out together, essentially to have more eyes watching for predators to give them more of a chance to see them. Because the more chance you have of spotting predators means the higher chance you have of being able to fly away before a hunt begins. Whereas animals like rhinos, being so much larger and powerful, are going to go ahead and be able to essentially group up so that they can defend themselves and their young. A rare human coming up here on the driver's side next to us. But now we are going to go ahead and kind of move into South Africa here. A big area we'll be visiting very shortly. But before that, speaking of the rhinos, we're going to see an area known as the Rhino Rescue Center coming up. They're going to be at the top of this hill on the passenger side once we get through here. And now the Rhino Rescue Center is important because, as many of you may know, rhinos are heavily endangered due to the poaching of their horns. There are people that think rhino horn can be used as medicine, but that information is actually not true. Rhino horn has no medicinal qualities whatsoever. And in fact, if you want to know what rhino horn feels like or what it's made from, I want you to do me a favor. Go ahead and rub your fingernails or put your hand through your hair right now. You just touched the same material as a rhino's horn is made from. It's called keratin. And almost every animal we're going to see here today has it in some way. Many animals have it. If they've got horns, animals have it. If they've got nails like us, they've got it. And it looks like our bull Mayoto, so the male southern white rhino, is out here right now. So he's going to be showing you all his butt right now because he's facing away from us. So everyone give a hello to Mayoto out here. And what we're doing at the Rhino Rescue Center is we're using techniques like artificial insemination to actually artificially impregnate some of our female southern white rhinos. Now the reason we're doing this is in the future, we want to use those techniques to make southern white rhino females surrogate mothers for their sister species, the northern white rhino. Well, let's play another little game here real quick. Does anyone know how many northern white rhinos exist in the entire world today? I'm seeing a few of you out there make peace signs at me. Unfortunately, you're correct. There are just 2 northern white rhinos left in the entire world, and both are females. Well, we have some frozen samples here at the safari park, and so again, with the work we did at the Rhino Rescue Center, we're hoping to bring that species back by using its sister species as that parental figure. And we've actually just reached our first big milestone there, because 2 of the females that live here at the Rhino Rescue Center are actually pregnant right now through means of artificial insemination. But they're pregnant with baby southern white rhinos, so members of their own species. And they are actually due come late summer, early fall, I believe, so keep your eyes open for that. That might be on the news later on. And you can actually help us to save all rhinos by essentially passing along some of that information that I just told you to your friends and family, especially that rhino horn is not medicine. That small step can play a huge role in helping us to save this iconic animal. And many of you just saw the pelicans out there. Remember, I just told you all that almost every animal has keratin, just like a rhino's horn and our fingernails and hair. Pelicans and other birds, they've got it in their feathers too. And this is the first area to visit South Africa now. This is our first kind of sights into this area here. Seeing our lagoon where our pelicans are fishing right now. This immense area is really going to allow the animals to behave in a very naturalistic kind of way. And so it makes each tour unique in its own reason, because basically every animal has free range of this area, so I can't tell you exactly where one group will be at any given time. But again, this helps make each tour unique in its own way. Another survival adaptation you'll hear me talk a lot about is camouflage, right? So look at the patterns in eland, the tan cattle-like animals that you're seeing down there. Those animals can actually blend in, just like almost every animal we're going to see here can. But to you and I, most of them are going to stand out. So what I'm encouraging you to do, if anyone's taking pictures today with your phones or your cameras, I want you to take a few pictures with a black and white color filter on if you're able to. Because if you do that, you're seeing them through their predator vision. So that's how most animals, both prey and predators, can see, is in only shades of blacks, whites, and grays. And so a lot of the animals that stand out to you and I do a lot better job of blending in. Now, you won't have a great viewing angle of these animals, but if you look up at the top of the hills on the passenger side and a little bit forward, you might see some Gebi zebra out here, an iconic black and white striped animal. But again, I'm not in a great viewing angle, so I don't want to spend too much time here, because I want to make sure I'm showing you guys animals that you can clearly and easily see. You might see some of them beyond the fence line as we kind of move forward into South Africa past this gate here. But again, so Gebi zebra, black and white animals, are going to stand out to you and I. But in a natural environment, because most animals only see in shades of blacks, whites, and grays, they actually do a really good job of blending in. So there are some zebras that you're seeing as we look past. You might need to turn around in your seats, but you will see them on the passenger side past that fence line. And again, those are Gebi's zebra out there. But we have the Patterson's eland with some of our Masai giraffe. Now, most people kind of think there's only one species, just a giraffe, right? There are actually there's actually many different theories about how many species or subspecies of giraffe we have. So for example, this is known as the Masai giraffe that you're seeing out here. And I want to talk a little bit about them right now, because despite being this iconic animal, giraffe are an example of an endangered species. We've lost about half of our wild population over the past 2 decades, and so this animal desperately needs our help. And one of the ways you can help us to save giraffe out there in Africa is by going onto one of our websites called Wildwatch Kenya. What we've done is our researchers out in Africa have deployed field cameras that send us thousands of images. And so by going onto that website, wildwatchkenya.org, is completely free, no sign-up required. You can play a game of I Spy with those animals. You identify the giraffe and other endangered species, and this helps our researchers figure out which areas to focus their conservation efforts on based on where there's the heaviest number of endangered species. It's also a very fun time waster. You can spend 5 to 30 minutes or so identifying these animals, and you can actually favorite and collect your favorite images. So I myself have my own little personal photo album of wild giraffe, elephants, and zebra, are just a few of the animals I've seen out there. Now I also want to give a shout out to the South African Sable Antelope. Those are the light to dark brown coated animals with 2 curved horns that you're seeing just past this giraffe that's just walking with us. Notice that is a mixed gender group out there, males and females, and that both genders do grow horns for that species. Other species we're going to notice later today, only males will grow them. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And now I can go ahead and kind of show you all a little impact that giraffe can have right now. So if you look at these trees that we're about to pass on the driver's side here, notice that they kind of look like they got a haircut. Notice that all the leaves are trimmed beneath a certain height, right? That's the giraffe. That's the impact a giraffe will have. Our staff here, our horticultural department that maintains our plants, have done nothing to them in terms of cutting the leaves down. That is all from the giraffe. And what's interesting is a lot of people don't actually think of them as this, but in Africa, giraffe are very important pollinators. Because they can actually reach those high-up trees, there are many species of tree in Africa that depend on giraffe being there so that they can. It's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Now we've got some Gemsbok coming up. These are the gray-coated animals with black and white facial markings, 2 straight horns, and kind of a black stripe along their legs and midsection, or underbelly, I should say. Now, if you see animals with horns that have facial markings, like the Sable, Antelope, and the Gemsbok, that's going to be used as a sign of communication. So that when they're basically getting ready to fight one another over resources or mates, if they hold their heads high or low, that can signal things like aggression or submission to other members of their herd, which can stop fights. And if you stop a fight before it begins, that lowers your chance of being injured. And so again, that's actually a survival mechanic, is facial markings. Now coming up on on the driver's side, you might see some walking bushes here and there. Those are our female ostrich. We've got about 5 of them out there. Again, ostrich. We only have females, so that is known. Those are known as the Spice Girls. On the passenger side, you might see a gray horse-like animal. Those are the Somali wild ass. Like the name sounds, they are from the nation of Somalia. But unfortunately, due to the conflict going on within their home nation, they are another endangered species. But the good news is, just by being here, you're helping us to save them, because basically by supporting us here at the Safari Park, you're supporting an AZA-accredited facility that has a breeding program for them. And AZA stands for Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and we do have a breeding program out there. Now take a look at these giraffe that we're passing by, hanging out with the Gemsbok, and I want you to look forward on the driver's side as well, because you'll get to see some very small ones. These are Obi and Yoda, our 2 baby boy giraffe that are about 3 months to 4 months old each. Now these are the new kids on the block. They have their own story. They were both born here, but there's a particular reason why they're in this area, or why they're kind of hanging out right now, as opposed to being with mom instead. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. I want to let you guys get a chance to see them, though. If you do spot them, Obi is the lighter colored of the two. Yoda's a bit darker. Alright, you will get a chance to see them, though, as we kind of cut through these trees, so make sure you're watching. And same thing as the little girl. I want you to look at them now. They're standing up. How tall do you think they are? Just guesstimate it in your head, and keep that number. We're going to play this game once we get back to the first area we visited. And we are going to be exiting South Africa here and entering an area known as Central Africa for a bit. So I cannot make any stuff, but I will point out any animals I do see. So keep your eyes open. We've got Arya, the black rhino, in here right now. She's doing a little bit of a trot right now. I think the Ugandan cob got a little too close towards her area, so she's running around. There's a reason why she's in that little area as well. These are Ugandan cob right here next to us. This is the only facility in the entire United States that you'll be able to see them. I do need to ask that everyone does take a seat, though. I do need you all seated while we're going up this hill. I will stop. I know it's a little hard right now to see some of them, but I will make a stop up at the top of the hill. So let's talk a little bit about Obi, Yoda, and Arya, the black rhino. So Obi and Yoda, again, were both born here about 3 to 4 months ago. But unfortunately, there were some medical problems when both boys were born. Again, they're not brothers. So our veterinarian staff did have to step in to take care of them. Now, the good news is they have a clean bill of health now. So they're all better. And so now begins the process of essentially teaching them that they're giraffe again. And so they were in that little yard area that you saw that was similar to the one that Arya was in. That's where they used to live in. But they could see over to kind of get used to the sights, sounds, and smells that they're going to be experiencing. It's an acclimation room. But if you've been following the news over the past couple of weeks, you probably saw that we were able to let them out for the first time with the rest of the herd. And they've done really well so far, to the point where, for the most part, as far as I know, they're going to be spending all of their days out there and only really coming back to their little area during the night. Basically, that's so their keepers can feed them, because they are still being bottle fed, and until they're completely weaned off that, they cannot be fully integrated with the herd. But they've made great progress so far. But again, they are still the new kids on the block, so that's why they're hanging out kind of by themselves, not really with the other giraffe right now. And Arya is in there for the same reason. We're hoping to release her to Central Africa here, but she needs to get used to this area first. She's a bit older, though. We got her about 5 years old. Now, on the passenger side, you can see two different species mainly. Red fronted gazelle and red lechwe. So the gazelle are the very tiny, tiny animals that have a faded black stripe on their midsection. They're a little hard to see. The lechwe are a bit bigger than them. Very medium build-sized animal with very soft, fluffy-looking coat and a bright white underbelly. So if you see an animal that's very soft, very fluffy, that's the lechwe. And now, as we go ahead and continue on here, I want to bring up my kind of third survival adaptation that we've talked about, and I haven't really mentioned it too much yet, but that's the use of things like horns, right? And so when we think of horns and antlers, we typically think of them as tools or weapons for defense, right? Against things like predators. They can be, but most of the time they're going to be used instead for competition, so competing over resources like food and water or territory and mates. So it's kind of two separate groupings. There are some species where males and females grow horns, and others where only males will. So for species where only the males grow horns, they typically live in a resource-rich environment. So you can think of them as living in an area where there's a lot of food and water to go around. So for example, Ugandan cob. So for those species, only the males have evolved the need to grow horns because they need to compete over the best quality territory, whereas the females don't ever need to grow them. So they're going to use that energy for different things, and they instead just pick and choose which males to spend their time with based on the male's territory. Other species, though, like the roan antelope, the Gemsbok, and the Sable antelope, males and females grow horns because they live in a resource-limited environment, so not a lot of food and water to go around. So both males and females have evolved the need to grow them in order to basically compete over the limited resources. Great view right now, though, of the greater kudu that we're seeing here. This is the third species that lives out here. This is the roan antelope. I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but this is a roan antelope right next to us. These brown animals with a black and white facial markings, curved horns. Really great viewing spot, actually, of them. And I'm going to pull forward to center everyone on us here. We'll stop for a few minutes, though. I want you to try to find the male greater kudu. So you can feel free to stand up if you need to right now. The male kudu. Oop, did anyone happen to press the emergency button? Maybe you just headbutted it by accident. If so, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. Nope, yep, totally fine. Go ahead, continue. You can keep taking pictures. Always wanted to double check. So find the male greater kudu. He has these incredible corkscrew-style horns, and you can see just how long it would take him to grow those, right? Only the dominant male is going to have those. Whereas the roan antelope, everyone has them. This is actually a really nice viewing angle of them, because typically these animals like to hang out below us here by the rocks. This is a great viewing angle here. One question I do get about a lot of these animals, for like the roan antelope, for instance, they're not born with horns. The babies do not have them. They will grow them very quickly, though. All right, but with that said, it's time to move on. Now, as we exit Central Africa and return to South Africa, I want to actually point out some of the local plant life that now surrounds us and that we're going to keep seeing throughout our whole tour. This is the kind of environment known as California coastal sage scrub. And the reason I bring it up is because it's one of the most endangered kinds of environments we have in the entire United States. And it does need our help because it is in our own backyards here in California. What I'm going to encourage you to do is, if I have any gardeners here, people very passionate about plants, please consider purchasing native species to put in your gardens. By doing so, you're not only going to help us to save this environment, you're going to help us to save the animals that depend on it. Things like hummingbirds, bumblebees, as well as butterflies, all of those animals depend on these native plants that they in turn can live here with us. Now, I told you about the Spice Girls earlier. Here's at least 4 of them I can count right now. So again, ostrich are the largest bird species on the planet today. So large that they are not flyers anymore. They have no way of flying. They are runners. They have powerful legs they use to run and to kick. They do still have wings, though. Every now and again, I get asked that question. Their wings are just used for different things. And again, those feathers really do help them to blend right in. They can go ahead and just kind of lie right down and blend in like a bush or a rock. Oh, but here's a group of springbuck out here. So again, take a look at the size of these animals. This is the biggest springbuck you will ever see in your life right now. That's about as big as they get. So these animals, you can see some of them have horns. So look at yourself. Does this animal ever want to use those horns against its predators, really? Does it ever want to stand its ground and try to fight them? Absolutely not. This is an animal built for speed and maneuverability. So that's why they have this smaller body. It's not necessarily disadvantageous. It actually does help them because, again, they can outrun some of the larger predators out there. But, of course, there's a pretty fast predator known as a cheetah that lives in their area. And so that's why they're going to be social. Because for those type of animals, where literally a second or two can mean the difference between the hunt being on or off, having more eyes is the biggest thing out there, right? With more eyes, more chances of spotting that predator. Now, it is time to get ready to say goodbye to South Africa here. We're going to be returning to East Africa very shortly, the first area we visited. We might make one more stopping point if we see some animals that we haven't seen. Oh, you just saw those Gemsbok kind of buck horns out there? That's how they do it. Now, that's a little Gemsbok and a larger one, so I don't think the little one's going to have much of a chance out there. But that's what we talked about earlier. Depending on how they're holding their heads, can sometimes be used of how to communicate with each other. And now we've got an iconic animal of Africa out here. If you're fans of nature documentaries, you have some of our Cape buffalo that you see typically doing battle against animals like lions. They're on the driver's side, the dark brown and jet black animals, males and females having horns, but that's a species of animal that is not afraid to use those horns against their predators as well. So they're going to use it against each other to compete for resources, but they'll also use it against predators. I've also got some scimitar horned oryx on the passenger side. These white-coated animals with brown necks are desert-dwelling species, so that white coat actually helps to reflect sunlight. That's how they're able to basically survive out in the deserts. It's just like you and I wearing a lighter colored clothing on a very hot day as opposed to a dark colored clothing. You can go ahead and stand up if you want to get some pictures right now. I saw some of you sit down because I was still rolling. Thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. Feel free to get some pictures, though. And then as we come around this turn, you'll get to see a group called the Ellipsan waterbuck as well. This is the brown to gray coated shaggy animals. There's no horns on this herd here because this is a group of females, mothers, as well as babies out here. So you get to see the Ellipsan waterbuck coming up here and very shortly. We're going to go ahead and move along right now. The way you can tell this is an Ellipsan waterbuck. Oh, a little bit of a charge right there, so someone got a little too close. The way you can tell this is an Ellipsan waterbuck is I want you to look at their backsides, and you'll see on their behinds is a white outlined circle. That is how you can identify it as an Ellipsan waterbuck. So you can tell everybody that when you see them later today. Other waterbuck species still have that white circle, but it's filled in. So the white circle is completely filled in, and that is known as a follow me mark. That's how babies can follow their mothers if they're walking through tall grass. Because a lot of times when they're foraging, moms put their heads to the ground, right? So that's usually what a baby would look at, because that's the highest point. And now let's talk about camouflage. So go ahead and look at your passenger side real quick, as we're making this turn here. Anybody see the deer? Also, this isn't really a good thing, but notice how that deer does not give a care in the world about us, right? They love the freebies here. Those are local mule deer, by the way, so that's not one of ours. But now it is time to go ahead and return to East Africa here. So I want to say thank you all very much for joining us here at the Safari Park. Thanks to your contributions, you've helped us to not only take care of these animals, but to support our research programs. Things like Wildlife Kenya, the preservation of our native plant species, our work done here at the Rhino Rescue Center, and in our breeding program is again all thanks to you and what you've done for us. You are truly helping San Diego Zoo Global as a not-for-profit organization live up to its motto of leading the fight against extinction. And as we love to say, you are our heroes for wildlife. So we're going to return to East Africa here shortly. By the way, every now and then I think people ask me, is there a difference between antlers and horns, right? Because deers have antlers that we've seen, but every other animal I've told you about is horns. There is, actually. So horns are permanent. Horns would last an animal's entire life. They're also basically fused into the skull, so that's kind of the reason why. Antlers are going to be shed every year or so, basically once the breeding season's over, for things like deer. One other way to differentiate them, if you're kind of looking at an animal and saying, is that a horn or is that an antler? If the basically appendage has one central column to it, it's a horn. But if it looks like a tree branch because it branches out, it's an antler. It's a little way for you to tell between the two. And again, every animal that exists in Africa, except for one, if it has either of them, is a horned animal. There is one species of deer that has antlers that lives out there. Now, as we return to East Africa here, oh wait, that's a great viewing angle, so let me pull forward a little bit here. I just want to make sure we cleared that gate. I think we have now, so we're all set here. If you want to get a picture of those southern white rhinos, feel free to. That's a great viewing angle. We probably won't get a chance to see them after we make our way around the turn here. And again, those are southern white rhinos out there. Those are probably the females and the young, because they're the social ones. And as you can see, most of the animals are going to be on the passenger side this time, so make sure your little ones are all set to be able to see them. We have time for at least one more stopping point. But I do want to make sure we have time to see somebody out there. And if you have any questions or comments on any of the animals that we've seen so far today or haven't seen, feel free to let me know at the end of the video. I'll get back to the loading dock. I'll be waiting at the front of the vehicle. All right, now is everyone ready to play that game we just decided? Okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and kind of say the height or the number of feet. And I want you to raise your hand if you think that's how tall the smallest giraffe you've seen, so the little girl is, okay? 3 feet tall. 4 feet tall. 5 feet. Got a couple hands. 6 feet tall. A few more. 7 feet. Okay, good amount there. 8 feet. Still a few. 9 feet. Anything taller than 10 feet. A few hands going up. Okay. So that little girl, at a month old, is about 6.5 feet tall right now. So for those of you that guessed in that range, great job. Obi and Yoda, though, for those of you that saw those boys, again, only 3 months, so about 2 to 3 months older than her. Both about 7.5 to 8 feet tall already. That's because the moment a baby giraffe is born, it's 6 feet tall, basically. Now, we will stop here. This is going to be our last one. I can't make it here for too long, so make sure you guys are getting your pictures. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and stop, kind of center us all here. I'm going to try my best to make sure none of you are blocked by the palm trees, but I will roll forward here. We've got some giraffe out here, as well as one of our, I believe that is our male southern white rhino, Jay Gregory, and the little girl is hiding behind the trees herself. Now again, giraffes are born at about 6 feet tall. They will double in height their first year. So from 6 to 12 feet, and the tallest male giraffe that we've ever had, because the males get a bit bigger, 18 feet tall. So they truly do live up to their titles as the tallest land animals on the planet. Now, again, the reason she's out here with mom is because, thankfully for her, no medical problems upon birth, unlike Obi and Yoda, so that is why she's out there. But again, Obi and Yoda have done great. We did get to see them out there today. So hopefully that process will continue. Oh, this is a great viewing angle. Now, we do have to keep moving, though, unfortunately, but take a look at that. She's looking right at us here, so make sure your cameras are ready. And again, I just keep calling her her, because she doesn't have a name yet. She is Princess No Name. Basically, we're still waiting for her. I've gotten about 500 requests so far for her to be named Leia, but we're going to go ahead and kind of wait and see. Basically, it's usually up to either a donor or a sponsor. They get the rights to name the animals. Other times, though, we will have a little contest for some of them, so I really do encourage you to keep your eyes open if you ever hear anything about that on things like our websites or Zoo News. But now it is time to return to the loading dock, so I want to say thank you all very much for joining me here on the Africa Tram. I hope you enjoyed your time and were able to learn a little bit about some of these animals are best suited for surviving in their natural habitat. Some animals, as we saw, are built more for speed and maneuverability to get away from predators and run, like the springbok and flamingos. Others are built more for size and power to defend themselves when they're young, like, say, the cave buffalo, the eland, as well as the rhinos. And other animals we saw actually are able to use things like horns, socialization, and camouflage to be able to bolster their odds of survival. Because once again, that's the name of the game for these animals, survival. Now, as we return to the loading dock, please remain seated until I come to a complete stop. Once I have, though, you are welcome to undo the latches on the passenger side doors. That's what will get those open for you. Again, my name is Brendan. If anyone has any questions or comments about anything we've seen or did not get to see today, let me know.